My name is Zachary Watkins, and I'm a WordPress developer for AgriLife Communications at Texas A&M. I have developed a continuous deployment process for our WordPress plugins and themes, and this video will show you how to accomplish this yourself. First, we're going to create a new Codeship project. Our repos are primarily hosted on Github, so I'm going to create a new Github repo, copy the URL, paste it here, add the Git extension. This is a multi-step process. We will use a basic setup, and we aren't going to have any setup commands, as I've already developed custom pipeline commands for the staging and production branches. Here we'll have all of the settings for a Codeship project. Since we're not doing testing, we will go straight to deployment and have that open for a later step. The reason that we had to do this first is because there is an SSH key right here that we need to copy to create a new git push user for WP Engine. We will name this Codeship extension research. There is a character limit on that. Paste the SSH key and add developer. This process takes a little bit of time, which is why we did that at a point that we can do some other things while that's loading up. Next, we will go back to the deployment instructions and create a task for the staging branch. I have a series of commands already set up for this purpose. We will start with the setup.bash file. Scroll the way to the bottom and click custom script and replace branch name with the name of the branch that you are watching. There are only a few variables that need to be modified for each instance. So this will be Codeship AgriLife, Codeship Research. Email address. The first WP Engine install that we will be pushing to. Notice that these are environmental variable syntaxed. We're not going to push to multiple servers just yet, but that's what you would use if you were going to. And nothing else needs to be modified. For this install, we will do npm install and then grunt develop. And that's all that's needed for the staging server. Then we do the deployment script. As a custom script. Comment out that line because this is the first time that we'll be pushing this project. And then create the deployment. Then we go to environment. First we'll start with the git location for our WP Engine install, which you can find down here. There's one for production and one for staging. The folder name variable will be the name of the folder that your plugin or theme will exist in. Our naming convention is lowercase and hyphenated, so AgriLife extension research. Directory is wp content/plugins. And that's it for now. Save configuration. We need to create a staging branch for our repo. Branch, new branch name staging, create branch. Now we'll go to our text editor and create a new file named .codeship ignore. This will be the getignore file for our repo that will prevent files that are only used for development from being deployed to our servers. I have one pre-made here that's not universally applicable, so I will modify it. Save it, and then commit it to the repository. Then push it to the repository. If the git push user has already been set up, then you will see a entry here. You can see each line of the custom build script running. Clicking the line will expand its output, like that. And we'll just give that a little bit of time to run its course. While the first build script runs, we will create a new deployment pipeline for the master branch. This will be nearly identical to the staging deployment commands, with a few exceptions that I will point out. First, we will change this to master. Change this to production. And that should be all. The next custom script we don't need to look up if you know your repo well. It should be for this one, npm install and then grunt package. And then the last one will be the deployment script. Then we create the deployment pipeline and then add this environmental variable to our list. And that's all we need. That's all we need for the master deployment pipeline. Let's go ahead and check on the staging deployment script. And it was a success. Here are all of our commands. This is the one that we are most interested in, which shows that all of the SASLint tests succeeded. And if you would like to see the git push process to the servers, you can see that here. So we have this change committed, and we will merge that into the master branch. Then push it to the server, which will trigger another build. And there we are. We'll just give that a few minutes to run its course and check back on it a little bit. And if your master branch finished building successfully, then you can pat yourself on the back because you have a successful continuous deployment pipeline. For extra credit, we are going to implement a GitHub release process. First, we need to add the modules to the repo using grunt contrib compress and grunt gh release. Save that to the package.json file. Now grunt gh release, save dev. And then we will configure the grunt file for these commands. We have the compress and gh release tasks, or configurations rather. We don't have any JavaScript, so I can remove that. Because we have some JSON files in here. And that should cover all of our files. First release. And then we add the tasks. Particularly the custom tasks, which I've written to produce a list of commit messages for the release module to consume. Nothing needs to be modified in these custom tasks. They should be good as is, except you will want to change the owner name. So we save that, then create a GitHub personal access token. This is the one that I use for releasing modules, but if you were doing this for the first time, you would do generate a new token. Here you can modify the access that the token needs. For your token, it'll be public repo, but you can never copy the token again. you have to regenerate it. So I'm just going to copy it from another repository that I have. You will use that here. And save the configuration. Now we go to the master pipeline, which we will be using to release the project. Grunt release, save deployment changes, and now all we need to do is push the changes. You have the changes to the grunt file. And then changes to package. Commit these to the staging branch. Now that we have that deploying, we can observe it here. And once it finishes building, if successful, we will merge it with the master branch, which will run the actual release process. So let's give it a few minutes and check back on it later. And our process has finished. It took a little bit longer than normal, but that was due to Node and Grunt modules installing, and because of all of the connections that it has to make to other servers. Sometimes these build processes can take a little bit longer than others. So now that the pipeline is finished for the staging branch, we'll go ahead and switch to master, merge, and then push. And we'll just give that a little bit of time. And eventually you will have a completed master branch pipeline. We will click through here, go to the end, and check out the release process. You can see it compressed the files and then created the release, which you can see right here. Here's our release message and the zip file. Which shows all of the files that we instructed it to save. So, now that we've taken care of that, I want to also add that there was an extra step I had to take in order to get the correct dependencies to be installed. And that was to manually set the Node version in the setup commands. Another way you can do this is by setting it in the package version. And because that's best practice, we will go ahead and take care of that. Another step that we're going to take during this next commit is to create build badges that will show the status of the Codeship process for the different pipelines, that is. It will be on the notification page. Scrolling to the very bottom. You can copy the markdown syntax, since that's what Github uses, and update the README file. I like to include these at the top. We're going to do one for staging and then one for production. And always update the package version when creating the first time you're creating a commit for the repo after the previous release. So we're going to switch back to the staging branch to commit all of our changes. We never commit directly to the master branch. Commit. Add node version number to package and Codeship badges to the README. We'll let that go ahead and do its thing. And while it's doing that, set up a notification based on the webhook from a different project. AgriFlex 3 was the first repo that I set up with this complete process, so most of what I've done is based on it. Go over here to notifications, Slack, which is what we use to communicate. Go to the settings page and create a similar notification with the same webhook URL. Enable, and then save changes. And since our process has not completed, I will go ahead and open Slack. And whenever this finishes, I should get a push notification. And there we go. I'm going to remove this command. And then merge the changes into the master branch. And then we go back here and wait a little bit. And now you can see that the release has pushed because we have a new tag version branch being built on Codeship. There's a push notification, and the final test will be seeing our release page. There we go. I hope you found my tutorial helpful. You can reach me at zachary.watkins@ag.tamu.edu. Thank you for watching.